here. Okay. Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday, so you know what that means. It's another episode of InfoSec Unplugged, where everyone and anyone in tech can join the chat, join the pack, talk about the ups and downs, and just, kick it for a little bit. I am your humble and gracious host, Davin Jackson, also known as DJax Alpha. I thank you all for joining. We were off last week, but for a somber reason. Before we get started, I want to send a rest in peace to Edna Mae Williams, who I guess everybody who was a young child in Jamaica back when my parents were younger have known this woman and was taught or raised by this woman, or she has influenced them in some capacity. So, I went there to send my condolences, to the family and, to my brother and everything. I'll get a little bit more on that later, but like I said, it was definitely an experience and a celebration of life. So, rest in peace to her. And with that, we can get the show started. Before I bring on the guests, I want to, obviously do the same ads I do. So this show is sponsored by Webroot. Webroot's an award-winning cybersecurity and antivirus product that protects you from cyber attacks and the dangers of the internet. Prices are affordable, setup is really simple as a few clicks, and the services are definitely reliable. And also, it doesn't really bog down your computer like some other antiviruses. Like I said, I use it personally. I would definitely check it out. And, we definitely need it with everything going on today with the ransomware and people clicking malicious links and everything. So make sure you go check that out. Also, this episode is sponsored by Udemy. Udemy has over 100,000 courses that you can learn anything, just about everything. You might want to learn a couple more skills. I know a lot of people are worried about, what's going on with the economy in 2020 and everything like that. So learn yourself a new skill, get yourself another reliable source of income, and just elevate your game. So without further ado, my guest today, like I said, I've been trying to get her on the show for a little while now. You may know her, whether you are in the Atlanta chapter of the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu, and I know you know that name because that is also the group that another friend of the show, Mary Galloway, is a part of. So if you're a part of the Atlanta chapter, you may know her from there. You may know her from Twitter. You may know her from her podcast, Security in Color. Awesome podcast. I definitely check it out. I need to talk to her about some of the audio stuff she got going on and how she does everything. But if you don't, you are in for a treat because I have her here. So, ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching, please, please, please welcome my guest, Dominique West.
Hello. What's up?
What's going on? Thank you for joining.
Absolutely.
So, again, like I said, I kind of gave a quick rundown of who you are, but if you want to, just kind of introduce yourself and give yourself a brief bio.
I always hate the introduction part because I'm like, oh, I'm Dominique. My name, Dominique West. I am the host of Security Color. I'm like, what do I do? I am the host of Security in Color, which is an educational platform. I do a podcast. I do a newsletter. Basically, I just really like to educate everyone, no matter if you're in security or not, about the cybersecurity industry. I'm also the chapter lead for not only Atlanta, but I moved to New York City. So now it's going to be a New York City chapter for WSC, but the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu, a nonprofit, empowering women in the field of cybersecurity. I do a full-time job as a technical account manager. I dabble in a little bit of any and everything, but essentially I always like to say, or I think I'm starting to just call myself now just like a cybersecurity educator at this point. So nice to see everybody.
Okay, so
I see the chat is jumping.
Yeah, the pack is on it today. But one thing that stands, so you and another previous guest of mine, Tanea Wilson, both have, it seems like y'all both have the cheat code because everything you just listed, I'm like, okay, there's how much time in a day and You seem to be
I know.
you seem to be on the same thing that she's on. So I'm definitely gonna need someone to give me the cheat code because it's and it's all
Listen,
and a shout out to the ladies because it's been you, it's been Tanea, and it's been Rachel Toback.
I love Rachel.
Who every time I hear like the rundown, I get exhausted just listening to it. So someone so clearly there's a cheat code and clearly there's an NDA agreement with the cheat code, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm starting to get the hint. I can see when I'm being connected.
No, it's this really bad syndrome of just doing the most. And it's funny, I was talking to my mom and she was just like, I don't know why you, because, I'll tell her, oh, I'm tired at the end of the day. And she was like, yeah, because you just do the most. Like, you don't like to sit down and like relax. Like, you always feel like you need to do something. And I was like, well, girl, you don't need to therapy right now. I'm good. But yeah, there's no cheat code. It's just, I don't know. Again, I think once you kind of find a purpose, and once you kind of get going, it's really hard to stop. I feel like that's where I'm at this point, where it's just like sitting down is too much for me.
Yeah.
So I just got to keep going.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I have the same complex where I'm like, I sit down and it's like,
what's
I
next?
sit down and as soon as I take a deep breath, my brain's like, you could be reading this right
I
now.
hate that. Yeah. And it gets
You,
me every time. It's like, did you
like,
study today? Did you read a
yeah,
book? Did you've been playing video games a little bit too long right now.
yeah. Or it's like, you messed up your streak on Try Hack Me on Pen Tester Lab, you
Oh
failure. Nah.
no.
But did I hear you say you relocated to New York?
I did. I came back home. I was born and raised in New York City, so it was essentially like coming back home. But I feel like the South has slowed me down so much. My friends call me a grandma because I I like the open space and I like quietness. And I never thought I would say I miss nature, but I do because New York City has nothing. It
Nothing.
literally has a tree, and it's all located in Central Park.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
uh,
you don't want too many trees, or you're gonna have them cicadas flying all over the
Oh,
place in
listen,
Maryland.
I hope that stays down there. I would literally die. I cannot.
So I was actually just up that way, and the funny thing is, I was having a conversation with some family members, and they were like, do you miss it up here? And I'll say this. I love where I'm at. I love the environment. I love the opportunities that it provides being down here. Some of the opportunities I was able to provide for my family and my children. Uh,
Right.
my wife, with her custom cakes business is booming down here, so I can't really complain
Nice.
about that. Um, but there's something about the Northeast, like I felt like it's obviously it's home, but there's also
Right.
this factor where it's almost like there's this edge you have to being up
Oh
there,
yeah.
and some people might say it's that aggressive Northeast mentality or whatever, but it was just
Mhm.
like I went up there and I was up there for about a week, and I was like, oh man, yeah, I missed this. I I I came back like, okay, I'm but yeah,
Mm-mm.
there's a
It
certain,
keeps you going up here.
yeah,
Listen, the
definitely.
city that does not sleep, literally.
Yeah. So okay. Well, again, congratulations on moving back up. Um, I don't know if that's going to be in my future anytime soon.
Listen, I don't blame you. I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out now because this is my first. So I came at a good time because there's no some kind of summer like a New York City summer. Like New York City summer is jumping, it is popping, it is a great place to be. But when winter comes, and I haven't had a real winter in 6 years, so that's the
Yeah.
problem. I'm not here yet. I'm loving where I am right now. Ask me again in a couple months whether or not I still be up here. Okay.
My my back appreciates moving. That going out
Yes.
every 2-3 hours to either shovel
No.
or use a
Move your
snow
car.
blower, move the car.
No.
Nah, don't miss it. Don't miss it at all.
Don't blame
So,
you.
all right. So, um, we went through the introductions, and again, now you went from down south, and now you're a New York native. But how did you get started in this lovely field we call technology and security?
Well, so my story I knew from very, very early. I went to school in undergrad for computer science. Prior to that, I was convinced. So I didn't start off saying, okay, technology was going to be my thing. I had two avenues I knew to go down. I was either going to be a top notch international lawyer. Like I watched a little bit too much of Law and Order, and I was convinced that that was the easiest thing. And I was like, that's for me. I want to be out here getting all the bad guys or making all the money and living this high-rise life. Like, I had it in my head that that's what it was going to be. And then I distinctly remember interning for the Brooklyn DA's office. And that humbled me very much because that let me know that I just wasn't built. I did not have the backbone for the type of stories that they have. SVU is real, all of that kind of good stuff. I was like, okay, I can't live day in, day out like this. So the other route was technology. My father is an engineer. He's been an engineer like since I was born. So he taught me about taking apart computers, the ins and outs, ever since I was young. So, and I grew up in the age of technology, right? The MySpace era and XYZ. So I was very familiar. I was already more inclined towards technology. And I remember my mom telling me that she should have known that I was going to go into some kind of cyber technology-esque kind of things when she used to try to keep me out of the computers, and I learned how to hack into it anyway. But it's also a testament to her because she just wasn't putting good passwords, and I just know my mom. But like, I was able to get into stuff to the point where she had to like take the power cord to work with her, kind of thing. So in undergrad, I was exposed to technology. They had a technology program, but that was more geared towards like the development side. It was very networking, had some basic fundamentals, but the path that I was always kind of told about was like, hey, you either can go the networking route or you could be a developer. I did not know about the cybersecurity industry. I did not know about any other paths, at least at that point. And it wasn't until I had gotten my first job. I worked at this place called the Rubin Museum of Art, which I love here in New York City. That was my first introduction to kind of the realm of security. I had a great colleague, and he introduced me or told me about security once I had I was the victim, my mom and I were the victim of credit card fraud. And from that, in trying to figure out, you know, did we go shopping in the same place at the same time? Like, when did this happen? Because the person tried to buy like $800 worth of Babies R Us from both of our cards. So it was the literal same exact transaction for two different types of cards, two different card vendors.
Okay.
So for me, I was trying to, I didn't know it was going down an incident response or going down an investigation path, but that was what I was doing. I was trying to link, well, what stores did we go to? What time of day was it? It's the same, amount. Clearly it's the same person. Like, I was trying to figure out how I can find that person, kind of, so to speak. And that's how I learned about the word of hacking and how prevalent like credit card fraud was, and how you can actually make that into a career. And hacking was a career path, and cybersecurity was an actual viable career path. So ever since then, I went for, at that time, my A+ in Security Plus, and I've just kind of been there ever since, kind of dabbling into different areas of cybersecurity to see which areas I like, which areas I don't, and what can actually be a career for me.
Right. So, I just lost my train of thought. So, so yeah. So again, it's interesting that you talk about, you're, starting out and kind of knowing that you were technically inclined. Like I said, like my story was kind of the same thing. Like, my grandmother used to let me tinker around with all of her stuff as long as it was either it had to be fixed, or if it was working before I took it apart, it needed to continue to be working.
Right.
If not, then I would have to deal with that Jamaican woman, and
You don't want to do that.
I ain't want no problems. But you talk about, when you went to college, and at the time it was just, networking, or kind of like the developer computer science stuff. And I think that was one of the things that deterred me when I started looking at tech. It was like, I don't want to do computer science, I don't want to do programming and development and everything like that. And then when I got in, once I finally started looking into it, I'm like, oh, I can get these certifications, and I don't have to learn code. I don't have to learn programming. I don't have to worry about all of that. And then later on, I was like, going back to what you were saying, where basically you kind of used something where you were the victim of, and turned that into a passion for your next career. That was something similar, whether it was, being fished for certain things, or then when I was working in the school system and we were dealing with a couple security issues and ransomware attacks, which we're going to get into in a little bit. but yeah, it kind of was like, oh, I can do this and I can
Mhm.
make a living off of it. Oh, yeah,
It's
that's the most,
exposure,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Exposure to different career paths and different avenues, things that we would never know that we can get into. Um, and I think that's why I'm so big about sharing about the different avenues and paths that people can do, because people don't know unless you see it. And then you don't know that you can do it unless you see someone who looks like you. So
Right. We're gonna get we're gonna get there. We're gonna get
we don't
there.
get it.
Yeah. So okay. So now, so with you, going the college route, and then realizing that this is what you wanted to do, and you started
Mhm.
looking into different certifications.
Mhm.
What's your thoughts on that whole debate between certs and versus degrees?
So I because I've lived through it where certifications, sure, right? They're never, I am a believer certifications are not going to trump real world experience, right? I think we all pretty much know that, right? Everyone
Right.
wants to get a job, everyone wants to get real world experience. Um, Now, the age of being able to have landed a job and work for 20 years and have that experience trump certifications, we're not there anymore, right?
Hmm.
It's or at least we're not there at the moment, right? So I'm a firm believer that certifications help you get through that HR barrier. Right now, we have a very big disconnect with the hiring and the different levels of really understanding the full tech or hiring pipeline or cybersecurity pipeline, so to speak. And I
Yep.
know, at least personally for myself, I wasn't being taken seriously about anything until I got my CISSP. And once I got that certification, the floodgates opened. I was able to command what kind of job I wanted. I was able to at least get callbacks, right? I wasn't even
Yeah.
getting callbacks from the jobs I was applying for until I was able to put that certification on my resume and say I have it, right? Or even studying for it, like, okay, they would ask when you're getting it, like when you taking the test, when you're taking the
Yeah.
test. But once I got the test, I was able to get my foot in the door. So, I know there's a big debate. Everyone's trying to figure out, should I do certifications? Should I do just try to get my foot in the door? I would say both, right? In the meantime, certifications do serve a purpose. I do think they're way too expensive. So if you can get that comped, or if you can get your job to do it, like, by all means, get all of them that you can.
Yep.
But in the meantime, just go for the very bare minimum security plus. That's something that we always recommend people. Or if you're a little bit more specific in the avenues that you're going down, I think there are some certifications that I think might be a little bit more helpful or might be a little bit complementary to go along with Security Plus. But for me, I always say, or the way that I always kind of tell my mentees who are trying to figure out how do they navigate their career and lives is like, what are you trying to do? Where are you trying to go? And map that out, right? So if you know that you're not getting callbacks, you've been busting your butt trying to do X, Y, Z, and you're not getting the results you are, okay, so change it, right? Do you need a certification? I know
Yep.
you don't have the experience right now, you don't have a job, but you know that you can create a portfolio, right? You can go out there and, if I'm big in cloud, right? So I always say, if you're trying to get into cloud, there are free trials. Like, abuse these free emails and use these free trials to get these credits and gain your experience up. So that way, when you step into your next job interview, and they're asking you about, how do you secure XYZ, or how do I strategize or modernize my on-premise to cloud, or all that kind of good stuff, you have the back and say, hey, listen, I've stood up these servers, right? And I've did all these things. I've done all of these cloud products. Here's my proof. Here's my portfolio. So I always say, just map it out and figure it out.
Yep.
There
Hold
is
on.
no right way to do any of this. Honestly, we all winging it.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard that. I need to get that audio up. But basically, that's my Navi from Zelda, where she goes, "Hey, listen." Um, that definitely was a bar. That was a gem that you just dropped there. Um, I agree 100%. There should be a combination of certifications and hands-on experience to kind of get you through the door. And yeah, if you can't get that initial foothold in, do some hands-on stuff and build that portfolio. So you were talking about cloud, yeah. Build up a cloud environment. Show them what you did in AWS or Azure or whatever. If you're in doing the pen testing field, do things like, do some CTF write ups, so you can explain your methodology.
And
Um,
volunteer. There's so
yeah,
many groups out there that are hosting CTFs. Like Black Girls Hack do CTFs all the time. Like you can build your skills. Like there are plenty of resources for people to build their skills right now. So
yeah, no,
take advantage of
absolutely,
everything.
yeah. There's so many things. Yeah, you can volunteer. You can, most of that is free. And like you were saying, yeah, a lot of that is, some of them do get a bit pricey, which
Mhm.
is definitely why you need to look at, courses. Heck, before you even look to pay anything, Google it, look up YouTube. People are writing blog posts. People doing YouTube videos and stuff like that. So you can actually, really get that experience before you do any of that. And yeah, like I said, the combination of the two, hands-on experience and certifications is crucial. Um, and then once you kind of get your foot in the door and getting some more experience, yeah, getting certifications like a CISSP, yeah, they're definitely going to listen to you, especially
Mhm.
when they don't know. A lot of the jobs don't really follow it, and they're like, oh well, it's entry level, but do you have your CISSP? And I think that's and
And
you
it's like, girl, you know that certification is asking for 5 years for minimum with a degree. Come on,
yeah.
like
And you touched on it, and I think someone actually just asked that question about a solution to the HR and IT disconnect.
girl.
Um, I would say that the people in HR or the people making the decisions, when they write up these job requirements, actually know what the hell they're talking about. That's
Well, they
first.
shouldn't be the ones writing it up, right?
Yeah,
Because the hiring manager or the security XYZ who's looking for this person should be working with HR to write up these job recs, right?
yeah,
It shouldn't be a solely HR. HR doesn't know, they're just
no,
going to Google. They're going to be like, okay, what's the top skill set? And let me
right,
put all top 10, right, for this thing. So, like, they should be working hand in hand with that hiring manager. But I think also it goes back a little bit from that, right? It's, you know, right now, I think cybersecurity is going through a sort of reckoning where it's like all this ransomware and big things and blah, blah, blah are having companies reevaluate, of course, their security posture, which I feel like happens every couple of years.
hmm
But with that scrambling, a lot of the times I don't think companies really know what they're looking for, right? They're just like, listen, let's just throw a wide net and see what we can get
talk about
rather
it.
than specifically saying, okay, I am missing an engineer or
Yes.
I'm missing someone who can strategize. I'm missing someone who can help us with our GRC. We need to get these
hmm
compliance certificate, audits, or we need to pass this audit or whatever. So I need someone specifically for this. Instead, they're just like, I need a cybersecurity person, and they should just have all the skills that a general cybersecurity
Yeah.
person should have. And like being that unicorn of knowing everything or having all of these skill set under your belt, one takes time, but two, sometimes it could be overwhelming. Like you can generalize. I've been pretty general for a long time until I started to hone in specifically on cloud. And even then within, like you still have to hone in uh, um, or be a little bit more specific when it comes to that. So like
hmm
again, all of that takes time. I think there's a disconnect that goes further back than just HR and the hiring manager, but at least that's the first step. I think the person who asked that question of like the solution, they should be working together, and I think that would allow the job recs to be a little bit more, or allow people to be a little bit more comfortable to applying instead of thinking I need to have all 10 of these requirements.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I've literally been in meetings where they're like, we need someone for DevOps, but then
They don't know what that means.
they start throwing all these other requirements, right? So I'm like, okay, so you want someone who can look at code and try to figure this out and do some threat modeling or whatever. And they're like, yeah, but it would be great if they could do pen testing and GRC and cloud. And
A
I'm like,
thousand jobs in one,
yeah.
and you ain't trying to pay me for all those thousand jobs. No,
And that's the other thing. And let's pay them way less than what they can probably get anywhere else.
exactly.
So even if you
Mhm.
do land someone within the first 3 to 6 months, they're going to be burned out and then decide this shit isn't worth it. I'm going to
Right,
go over here. So,
right.
but quick shameless plug before I do that, and I'm not plugging my own stuff. I'm actually plugging another friend of the show, DFI or Diva, with her
Hey.
website, getyourstartcareers.com. So, in the same conversation we were just having about finding the stuff with the entry level, getyourstartcareers.com, the people behind that, really kind of flesh out those jobs to make sure that entry level positions are actually for entry level people. They're
Right.
partnering with employers every day, so please go check them out. I believe
That's
the
awesome.
membership is free right now, and then for employers, they're working out some deal with that. Again, I don't work for them, so you would have to kind of go talk to them and check them out. But like I said,
Nice.
she's I think that's something that's major and that's going to be extremely helpful in the field. So check out getyourstartcareers.com, and just tell them I sent you and I said hi. I don't want nothing from it. Just telling them, just saying I said hi. So,
That's
all
awesome.
right. So, also, I want to just kind of give a quick shout out because y'all moving quick today to my pack. So, shout out to everybody here on this wonderful, well, rainy down here in Georgia Thursday. So let's see, we have Cyber Insight. JB says, hey everybody. DFI or Diva, there she goes right there, says, hey.
Hey.
Business Technology Mentorship says, what's goody? It says, first time they're on early. Professor Black Professor Black Ops, another friend of the show, says, what is up, chat? Infinite Logins. Harley says, what's up? What's going on? Again, if you guys haven't checked that out, go check out his stuff, what he's doing with his CTFs and the kind of pick your own path. Computer Science Barbie says, hello. So,
Hey, Perry.
hi back. Let's see. Business Technology Mentorship says just got off a tough AppSec interview. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Well, you know what? Hopefully you'll get it, and if not, then you learn from it
fingers
and you'll be
crossed.
stronger. But yes, we're rooting for you. So let's see. Kay says hello everyone. Where are we at? Let's see. Sansire says hey.
That's
Oh,
what I
there
said.
you
When it
go.
came in, the chat was jumping.
Yeah. Says
Oh,
says
thanks.
your podcast. Yes, we're going to definitely get to that. And there she goes. Mary Galloway
Hey,
says Dominique
Mary.
is the best. And then also says she also needs the
I
cheat
know she
code.
lying. Girl, you got that cheat code too.
Yeah,
Don't
I
play.
was about to say
I was
she
about to
like
say,
I was about to say nah, like I forgot to add her on the list too.
she's on that list. She's at the top.
Yeah, seriously. So let's see. Business technology mentorship said I left the Midwest to go back east and got tired of the passive aggressiveness. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I lived out there. I lived out there for a little while. It's kind of
It can be a lot because there's
yeah.
no passive aggressiveness here. People will tell you how it is. That's a problem.
Yep. Kalila
Yeah, we'll tell
Scott,
you.
another friend of the show, says what's going on. Trillionaire. I'm not asking
What
that
a
question.
name. What a name.
And the question they says
Not
how
hold
old?
on, this is a guess. Take a
So I,
guess.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. I'm not doing.
Why are people
Um,
so big about age? I never really get that.
I don't know. Techno Chatter says salute hopping on before a consultation. So glad you could join us. Good luck on the consultation. Kalila says no smoke from grandma. Absolutely none.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely none.
I don't want those problems.
Yep. Let's see. What is that? The mind says the minds are shaking. There we go. Look, it's been a long week. Honestly, as a CS guy, I wish I could have done a cert or two first to at least get in the industry. Yeah, like I
It's
said,
never too late.
yeah, it's never too late, and I mean, at least you got in. That's
That's
the
what
big.
everybody's trying to do.
Yep. So, Kalila
Portfolio
said
is like,
portfolio. Yep. Let's see. Open a GitHub account and post your skills for free. Um, I agree with that, and like I said, especially when getting your foot in the door, yeah, post your stuff, blog it. There's this argument going on lately where some people are like, everything you do should be free, and I think
my time
there's a
is
thin line. Like I mentor,
precious.
I mentor for free, And then there's a thin line between mentorship and coaching. So I'll mentor you and I can point you in the right direction. But if you want me to kind of sit down with you and like teach,
Right.
I mean,
That
you
takes
pay.
time.
Yeah, I mean,
And we can't get our time back.
yeah,
So
I'm not going to charge sans prices, but there's going
listen,
there's
let's
going to
not talk
be
about sans prices.
so. All right, so let's see. So the rest of y'all, I see y'all, but we're gonna definitely get you. Gonna get back to that. We're gonna get to that to the Q&A session. So please, keep your questions coming, and you guys can ask just about anything. Just keep it respectful, because
We don't want the problems right
yeah,
here.
yeah, it wouldn't go well. So, all right, so now you talked about it a little bit, about how you're starting to specialize in cloud and cloud security. So why don't you kind of just speak on, um, you know, how you got into that and why you actually why you picked that
Enjoy.
as your path.
Yeah, I remember distinctly there was a job. I'm gonna point it out, but I definitely hated a point in time of where I was. I didn't feel like what I was doing was matching, the things I was seeing in the industry. And I think at that point, the cloud was definitely being embraced by, I think, the more larger corporations or the more forward-thinking corporations. But at that time, I was in healthcare, and we know healthcare is pretty behind on times. So in that case, I started I started learning more about cloud in terms of how that is going to change just the way that we were doing everyday life, right? There were very small instances of websites or companies who were on the cloud. At that time, I think that was even when a company and I had Splunk, and that was just going to the cloud at that time. So at that time I was trying to figure out, okay, what is this cloud, right? What does it do, and how is it going to change my way of life? How is it going to change the way that I work, and how can I make sure that I stay ahead of the game? Because I'm always trying to make sure, and in technology in general, I think no matter what part or what aspect of technology you're in, you have to keep abreast or keep up with what the trend is going. Otherwise, it's very quickly to get left behind. So I think for myself, when I figured out that the cloud is something that was going to be transformative for everyone, both in your personal life and at work, and then of course security would be a part of that, I was like, well, why not, right? So I was able to get my first cloud engineering job at a cloud first or a cloud native company. And from there, I got my hands dirty in a little bit of everything. I was able to learn a little bit about each of the cloud service providers at that time, or the services they had at that time. I had the opportunity to just get to learn and study, and I have the tools and resources to be successful, and I really enjoy it, right? We are, if I'm not mistaken, every year they change it, but I think we're at 95% of organizations are in some aspect of the cloud, right? We don't, in every single aspect of product that you use, is a software as a service something, right? Or you're using the cloud, whether or not you think you're using the cloud, or whether or not you know what the cloud is. So I've just learned that was just something I really enjoyed. I liked the opportunities that I got from it. I got to work with and partner with Google for one of their certifications, their cloud certifications, one of the first security ones that they came out with. So I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just been a field that I enjoy. I've tried, again, a little bit of networking. I've tried the developer route. I've tried pen testing, and it's cool. Those are skills that I think are definitely necessary, but it just wasn't something I was interested into career until I got into cloud and said, okay, I definitely want to figure out how do I stand things up in the cloud. I want to figure out how do I build a cloud solution? How do I help companies who are trying to modernize and keep up and advance to whatever this new forward revolution that we're trying to do, or this new tech revolution that we're trying to do? How can I be a part of that, right? How can I make sure I'm keeping up with the fact that machine learning and AI is going to be a part of everything, right? Big data, how is all of these things going to be connected? And I also started to understand that security wasn't necessarily just about my career. It was also about the things I do personally, right? Because I still am a consumer, and I still want to, have the latest such and such, but I also have to be conscious of saying, okay, well, how does this affect my everyday life, right? Making sure that my life is secure, and that my family is secure, and that understanding that these threats are no longer just for big companies, they're literally for everyone. And I think that's what has really kept me going and staying in that industry and figuring out, okay, like what's happening here.
No, absolutely. So a follow-up question, because usually when people hear the word cloud, whether it's people already in the tech field or people who aren't really, technically inclined, it's intimidating for different reasons. So for example, your regular average consumer um, will literally try to look up and imagine a cloud,
The
and
cloud.
and start posing the different questions from there. How do I access this cloud? What if the cloud goes away? Or whatever. What if it rains? Does my data get damaged? It's whatever random stuff they have. And then people from the tech side who are, you know, traditionally on-prem folks,
Yep.
right? Who don't believe it's real unless they can walk into a data center or a server room and actually see it right then and there. Um,
Mhm.
the cloud can be intimidating.
Mhm.
So, what advice do you have for someone who, obviously, we all know that this is going to be the way of the future, a lot sooner rather than later. It's cheaper, it's scalable. You can expand and retract and contract as needed.
Right.
Uh, but
It
there are
seems
some people,
infinite.
yeah, right, and some people are scared for one reason to learn, whether it's to learn something new or scared to learn how to secure it. So what advice would you give to someone who's looking to kind of, I guess, make that transition or jump into cloud?
So I always try to figure out the avenues that people are in, right? So especially you mentioned like people who are already in tech, they've mainly been on prem, mainly working in the data center, the more physical person who's used to what we tend to call the more traditional way of doing security. And I would say this really, there are fundamental differences, sure, of working in the cloud, but a lot of these security aspects, excuse me, and security tools and all that kind of good stuff, or I should say the mindset, some of that shifts when you go to the cloud, right? You still have to think about security regardless of whether or not you can physically touch something or whether or not you are just typing away on a computer and doing it through the internet, right? So you have to figure out about, for example, IAM, no matter where you are, right? Whether or not you're in the cloud or you're figuring it out on premise. You have to understand about backups, right? You have to understand about, you have servers, you can spin up servers, way quicker. So there's so many different aspects of security that's traditional that translate to the cloud, that I think once people, at least the ones who are in tech, have a grasp of that, I think it's much easier for them to be more accepting of that transition, right? Or be more accepting to learn a little bit more and say, hey, okay, I know this, right? I know how to spin up a server. All I have to, instead of me having to like physically kind of pick it up and go rack it and physically hook it up, all I have to do is a couple of clicks, right? I can do a couple of clicks. Anyone can do a couple of clicks. But for those who are just getting started, I think the issue tends to be, or at least in my experience when I'm talking to people, is they're like, I need to learn every single cloud vendor and every single cloud tool and every single cloud XYZ. And it's like, you don't, right? You need to learn the fundamentals of what it means to work in the cloud, right? You need to know about the different cloud service models. You need to know about the different services. You need to learn the basic foundations of what this digital transformation means for organizations. Once you have that down pat, pick a vendor. Pick any of the big three cloud service providers, whether or not it's AWS, Azure, GCP. I know a lot of times people are like, well, which one should I do? And honestly, I always say, just pick one, any, mini, money mode if you must. But if you really would like to understand the fundamental differences, if you want to go big data and cutting edge, right? GCP is a little bit more geared towards that. If you want to do, AWS has been around for forever, so they have the most services. So of course you have a lot of companies who have been with them a little bit longer. So therefore you might have a little bit more opportunities. I know people say that there's more AWS jobs.
Yeah.
That's changing, but yeah, sure, right? Or if especially if you're someone who's traditionally worked on premise, or if you've traditionally worked with companies that kind of deal with a lot of legacy or a big monolith kind of applications and stuff, a lot of those geared towards Azure, right? So
Yeah.
that can be an easy transition for someone. But I always say pick one. And then once you learn about that one, a lot of that translate. All of them have the same services. They're just called something different, right? And they might have a little bit of features that do something different, like one or two things, to make themselves stand out a little bit more. But they all do the same things. They all do IAM. They all have serverless. They all have these different functionalities, databases, AI. Like they all have the same thing. So once you learn one, that knowledge set is so easy to transfer to the others. And I think once people understand that they don't need to learn all three right away, if you want to in the future and you want to, you just got time and money and you want to get all the certifications, by all means do that. But I always say, make it simple on yourself. Learn one, and I promise you that knowledge will transfer very, very easy.
No, I agree 100%. That's what I've been saying lately since I started to learn it. Learn one. So AWS or whatever. I usually go with which ones are most. Can you get the most information publicly available on the
Right,
internet? And
right.
between AWS and Microsoft, I mean, well, Google too, but you
Yeah,
can
they're starting
find
to
you
open
can
it up a little
find
bit
yeah
more.
you can find most of those resources. Hell, you could take some of the courses for free. Um,
Mhm.
and then once you do that, yeah, just learn the difference in terminology. Um,
Right.
it becomes less intimidating once you go, oh, okay, so they're both talking about this is the same thing as an S3 bucket, or this is the same thing as whatever. So yeah, I definitely say learn one and then just figure out the terminology.
Hmm.
And then once you kind of get that foundational knowledge, yeah, going back to what we talked about before, yeah, spin up a free service
Right.
and make your environment. I made one and then I actually, you know, did a whole diagram on it on how
Nice.
I did it with the different the different networks and everything. So
That's
I would
awesome.
so yeah, definitely agree. Learn it, get the terminology, but then that hands on experience is definitely important. So let's see
Important.
here. Let's see. I'm looking for. It's funny. We're having an episode about cloud and my buddy Anonymous isn't here. Anonymous has been a character. If you've seen a few episodes ago, they actually revealed themselves, but I'm not spoiling it because y'all have to tune in and watch. Go back and watch that episode. But yeah, they're usually like the cloud connoisseur. So,
Gotcha.
all right. So you talked about you talked about getting your start. You talked about going to college and then getting some certifications and now moving into the specialty of cloud security. But what challenges have you faced or or you still face day in day out in your career field?
I think the biggest challenge right now, or I should say, a challenge that I did have that I've worked through and now on the other side is like figuring out what my true end goal was, right? I did feel for quite some time I was pretty aimless in what I was doing. I knew I wanted to be successful. I knew I wanted to make an impact. I just wasn't quite sure how, and I wasn't doing things intentionally. And being intentional is literally like my mantra. I can't show you now, but back there in my room, like I have all kinds of sticky notes and like my books and stuff in terms of like being more present and being more intentional. And I think that's something that has been a pretty game changer in my career, simply because you can get caught up in trying to keep up with the latest XYZ or get caught up in just so many aspects and
The trends.
trying to the trends and trying to be an influencer now or trying to be an XYZ. And like that gets tiring and that leads to, burnout, and that leads to and not even necessarily just burnout, but it also leads to people not even wanting to be in the field anymore, right? And that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to deter people. We're not trying to have people leave or have a negative connotation. Like, by all means, if you want to do something different and this is not your passion, sure, I'm all big for following your dreams. But having a negative experience because you're not maybe being intentional, you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, in cybersecurity, can be a lot. So for myself, I had to realize, like, listen, I am confident and I trust my decisions. I know that I do the research and I do the work, and that my blessings are going to follow, right?
Yeah.
And trusting in that, I think, has allowed me to kind of take a step back and understand all these different avenues that I'm doing. Does it still continue to serve me, and am I serving others, and am I being intentional in how I'm moving? And if so, all right, let's keep going. If not, then maybe go to the back burner, maybe come to it later, and maybe this is something that I can just kind of quit altogether. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges personally, because I've been fortunate to have a pretty good career to get me to this point. And as I start to move up the ladder again, right now, my entire life right now is just being intentional. So I know for a lot of people who are just getting started, it gets overwhelming. You want to hit the ground running. You want to learn everything and be this XYZ expert and all this kind of good stuff. And if I can tell myself, a couple of years ago, if I want to get started, I'm almost 10 years in game. If I can tell myself 5 years ago that, listen, you're going to make it, you'll be fine, but you don't need to stress out. You don't need to continue worrying. You don't need to miss out on important things in life for, studying, or so to speak. Like, I am big on studying and making sure that you're doing your work, but you don't, it doesn't need to be your life, because there's so much more to it. So I think that's a challenge that I'm continuing to grow in. I know other people are facing. So hopefully that kind of gives them a breather to let them know that, hey, you're doing good. Like, if no one told you you're doing good today, let me tell you that you are doing good today.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I felt personally attacked on that statement about doing all the work at one point, because that was literally me.
Yeah.
I didn't have the mentor, so to speak. So I was that person in the basement,
Right.
and just trying to knock out everything. And
Right.
to your point, yeah, no wasted movements, no, like, there's no point in getting
Every
every
certification.
certification. Like, if you're not gonna get into networking, you don't need Cisco certifications, right? you might
Right.
need you might need a foundational network plus, you
Right.
know
Right.
and then move on. But you don't need to get all the Cisco certs. You don't need to get all the Microsoft certs if you don't plan on being a sysadmin
Right.
or anything like that. No wasted movements. You track out your path, and you go for it.
Exactly.
And then I think the other thing is, to your point, and I think I talked about it on the last episode, is, yeah, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. And I think the big fight now is everybody's trying to chase the bag, right?
Yeah.
And although that's commendable, and I am
Mhm.
all for knowing your worth
Getting
and
your
getting
money.
what getting your money, you can't chase the bag and your foot's not in the door.
Right.
Like, you're barely lacing up your boots. How the hell are you going to chase the bag, right? I think
Right.
I think the misconception is everybody's looking at it like, oh, chase the bag, chase the bag, chase the bag. If you know your worth and you know your shit, the bag will come.
It will come to
The
you.
bag will
Okay.
come, right? So
Yeah.
there's no so to me, those who are out here preaching and telling their mentees or their followers or whoever they're influencing to just go after the bag, what they're not telling them is, but in 6 months you're gonna get exposed, and then you're gonna live this lifestyle
Mhm.
based on this, and then when you get exposed that you're not worth the bag that you just chased, now you're gonna have to take a pay cut, and now you're gonna be struggling because now you're gonna have to
Right.
maintain whatever you did here from here. So my thing is, know
What
your
does that
stuff.
bag come with? Like,
Right.
the underlying of what that bag comes with. Like, because I've seen people say, listen, they'll do two jobs, and they'll be, with the intention of chasing the bag, and, oh, I'm going to be a XYZ, or this analyst or that analyst, or I'm chasing this, or I'm
Hmm.
doing this, and it's like you said, if you know your stuff, it's gonna come across, because
Yeah.
best believe the whole fake it till you make it is not it. Like when you get there and you get through, sure, you might have got through the interview, you might have landed that job, but when it hits the fan and they're looking to you to be that expert, they're looking to you to figure out how to help them solve this issue, and you're twiddling your thumbs, they're gonna be like, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
I thought you
You
said
know,
you could do
I,
such and
I
such.
I've literally seen people who are giving talks or putting out content about how to get the bag in cybersecurity, and technically they're not in cybersecurity,
Mm,
but you could speak it well, right? You,
mm,
I don't know, I don't know how they're whatever, but my thing is, anybody who asks me, they're like, I need to get to six figures. That's great. What are you prepared to do for it, right? And now I'm not telling you to put up with nonsense job after nonsense job,
right,
knowing you're being underpaid, because that's another
right.
struggle that I had to deal with coming up, because I felt like, because I didn't have my
Getting
college.
pennies for nothing,
Yeah,
for working so hard. Yeah.
right. So because I didn't have my college degree, I felt like I needed
To
to
do
pay,
more. Yeah.
do a little bit more. And then let's not get into the work twice as hard to get half the, that's whatever, right? So, so I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, if you learn your stuff, okay, you want to be in cloud security, know the stuff in cloud security. You want to get into pen testing, know your shit.
Right.
Trust me, they'll come. And as long as you know your worth. And my advice is, I don't care if you're happy at your job. Every three to
Right.
6 months, take a look at the market.
And
Every
see
three,
where you stack up.
yes,
Right.
see you
Have
stack
you
up.
been keeping up? Like, and like, yes, to a certain degree, all of us as professionals need to keep up with the trends and what's happening,
Yes,
right? We, as to be proficient in your job, you absolutely need to be making sure that you are constantly learning. You're always a student. But
and
in the mean,
I'm not even telling people. I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but
no, you're fine.
I'm not even telling people, like, okay, so it's for example, let's say you've been somewhere 6 months and you look and you go, oh, the market says I should be making $20,000 more.
Right.
You may not have to jump at that moment, but weigh your pros and cons, right? So for example, they say, like I had a job where, okay, the market was like another 10 grand. I was 10 grand more than what I was making. But
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much came and went as I pleased. Could create my own schedule. If I
The
looked at them and said,
flexibility.
yo, you know what, I'm gonna go, go to lunch with my kids, or I'm gonna
Right.
go hang out with my wife today. She doesn't have an order. And they were like, go for it. All
Nice.
right, cool. These are little perks that you get. Now,
Right.
if you're looking and you're like, okay, hold on, they said the market's 30 to 30, 40,000 more than what I'm making. Now you might want to have a conversation. So, but and even if you're happy, because people's like, oh, job loyalty and all that other crap, and I'm not gonna get started.
That's a tough one.
Right.
I've been there where I felt I've stayed at a job. And I've stayed at a job, but I think I've stayed at jobs longer because I just feel guilty. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a tough one.
Well, for me, what did it for me was the person I was actually employed by. So, and I ran his business like it was my own.
Oh,
And we were out one day, and he looked at me and said, "There's no loyalty in tech." And I'm looking at him like,
I guess,
"Damn,
girl.
I've been your soldier for like the last 2 years. Like, what
What
you
you
talking
need?
about, right?" And then a few months later, my son was sick. He was little, so he was in daycare, and I left early. Now, mind you, I didn't take a lunch. I usually work through lunch. I worked late. Like, he would go on vacations, and I'd basically run it.
Right,
They didn't miss a beat, right? His
right, right,
clients never missed a beat. And I remember going, I need to go get my son.
right.
And he looked at me and said, your kids is not my problem.
Oh,
So 2 months later, I was out. Like, I was like, all right,
listen,
I was like, I'm getting married in a month. I'm going on
man.
vacation. I'm not gonna mess. I'm not gonna fumble this bag just quick. I'm gonna keep my damn mouth shut. But I'm literally negotiating salaries, like,
Right.
while I'm also yelling at folks to get for the stuff for the wedding. But
Go where you're valued.
yeah. But you know what I'm saying. And then the other thing is, if you die today, your job's gonna be posted by lunchtime. right?
Exactly.
If you give your blood, sweat, and tears to these companies, and if they decide, oh, we can find someone who is not maybe not even as good as Dominique, but maybe very close to the work that Dominique does, but we can get them for $30,000
Cheaper,
less.
right?
Dominique's not working out,
Yeah, right. They'll
budget
let you
constraint,
know.
yeah, budget constraints and stuff like that. So to me, it was
Right.
like I now I'm like that, and I'm all and with the mental health aspect of it, like I'm not staying anywhere if I just don't think it's gonna work, right? So
Right.
3 months, 6 months, if I'm just like, give it your best effort, but in your heart, if you really feel like I can't do it, there's to me there's no shame in that. And back in the day, it was like, oh, it looks bad on your resume. But again, this is going back to what we just said about knowing your shit and knowing your worth. If you're good at what you do, you have the credentials to prove it. Ain't nobody gonna ask
It's
about that.
fine. The bag is gonna follow you
Especially,
no matter where you go.
especially in this, especially with people who are looking for highly credentialed people.
Right.
So,
Somebody has a really good question. Taekwon Gong.
yeah, hi.
How do you know your worth if you're building skills, which I think is really good because especially if someone's new and they're like, you know, am I worth this amount of money because I don't have 5 years in the game? Or
Yeah,
am I, can I command as much if I, haven't had this hands-on experience? And my answer to that would be when you're looking at these job requirements, when you're talking, and something I think that it took me a while to realize, when you're interviewing, they're not just interviewing for you, you are also interviewing for this company. And I need everyone to keep that in their mind. Like, you are not just there to see if they're a good fit or if you're a good fit for them. They need to be a good fit for you. So
yep.
if you have certain criteria, you need some flexibility, you need XYZ, make sure that your needs are also being met in the job. But
No,
when it comes to this, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, no. I don't even treat interviews as interviews like that so much anymore. I treat them as
The
conversation,
conversation.
right?
Yeah.
Because
But
that's
that
the other
takes
thing.
time.
Yeah, it does. It comes with time, but we put so much anxiety in ourselves. Oh my gosh, like you're studying for an exam or a dissertation or some shit, and
Right.
and then what happens? You go in, they ask you a question, you stumble. Now all of a sudden you feel like crap. You might be having a damn panic attack in some cases. I now I'm just like, we can talk, like I go into the interviews and it is a straight up conversation, and you're absolutely right. You not only are they interviewing you, you're interviewing them. You're interviewing to see, what their culture is like. How do they, to me, what's your training budget? Do you
Right.
do
Are
you
they going to
reimburse
be
folk? Do you
right?
send people, what's
The
what
conferences.
what's the work life balance? Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I expected to be on call once a week, once a month, or every day?
Right.
These are all things that again, you're right. It comes with time, but yeah, you have to ask these questions just like they're asking you, right?
And
Like, okay,
as part of their question was, if you're building your skills, how do you know how to command or how do you know your worth, so to speak? And I always say, if you know you're putting the work in, and as you're looking at these job recs and they're saying they need a Linux person, Linux, you've been out here at all these meetups and all these XYZs and you've gone taking Linux courses, or if they're asking for someone who knows about databases and you've been doing such and such, whatever skill set that they're asking. And regardless of the fact that you might not have been in that skill or you haven't had that skill for 5 years, but you can speak to it, you can provide examples, and you can at least provide some solutions. Someone just said free resources, and you use all those things and you put in the prep work, you're worth it. I've done the work.
yeah,
I can command this job.
yeah,
And once you have that backing, and again, I know that comes with time. It's easier said than done. Because trust me, it took me a really long time to be able to step into these rooms and these jobs and all this XYZ and command what I'm commanding now. It has definitely taken me some time. But
hmm
I want to now come back and tell people, and I tell my mentees, I don't want you to just not be getting here 10 years later. I want you to get there 2-3 years, however far along that you're in it now. So you'll start to understand your worth, and it'll be a little bit scary as you're starting to command and take a little bit more charge of your career. But it is absolutely worth it and necessary for you to do that right now. Like, if you don't do that, you need to do it right now. You need to start commanding your career. It is your career, not their career, not someone else's job. This is your career, your job. You need to go to it every day. So you need to be commanding and making sure that you're doing and getting what you need. All right.
No, no, like I said, yep. I guess I'm not even going to touch that. I'm just going to leave that one.
No, you're good.
I'm gonna leave that one. I'm gonna leave that alone. So, all right. So before we continue, I do have to do my little commercial break. So let's see, where are we? Yes, we have to do a word from our sponsor, which is HailBytes and their product Security Sherpa. We were just talking about getting that hands-on experience. Well, Security Sherpa does a whole bunch of training exercises for web app and application security. Just, you know what, you don't listen to me. Listen to me. Hold on one second. What's up, everybody? It's DJax here from Alpha Cybersecurity and InfoSec Unplugged, and I'm here today to talk to you about my friends over at HailBytes. HailBytes is a cybersecurity firm that provides on-demand security, infrastructure, and awareness training to companies and businesses of all sizes. Their mission is to turn your employees into cybersecurity warriors and to protect your organizations from the most common and most damaging cyber attacks. They achieve this in many ways. Some of them are their online security training courses, phishing simulations, and their newest product, Security Sherpa. Security Sherpa is an online training environment that trains your team to build secure applications by giving them first-hand experience of real-world vulnerabilities. Not only will you learn about what makes them vulnerable, you'll also learn how to exploit them and how attack vectors work in the real world. The training modules range from beginner to seasoned professional, with modules like Capture the Flag, Open Floor, and even tournaments where teams can compete against one another. Security Sherpa can be used to assess, improve, and report on application security skills across your team without the need for long courses. Best of all, it's powered by AWS, so you can start your training for one or several team members within minutes. If you think Security Sherpa is right for your team, just click the link below in the description and you can try it free for 14 days. Just click the link and you'll get started right away. Again, this is DJax from Alpha Cybersecurity and InfoSec Unplugged, telling you to go check out HailBytes and check out their new product, Security Sherpa. Take care. All right. So again, thank you to Security Sherpa for sponsoring. Like I said, go check them out. Again, my full disclaimer: anytime you guys click the link or support any of the things that I'm promoting here, it does go back into the show. However, I also do not promote anything that I wouldn't use personally or that I haven't used personally. So please go check them out. Great, great product, great training range, and go follow HailBytes on Twitter as well. It's literally HailBytes. So yeah, go check them out and see it for yourself. When you click that link, it's a free 14-day trial, and then it's built on Amazon cloud. So you're killing two birds with one stone. You're learning some AppSec stuff, and you're gonna learn about the cloud, which we've been talking about today. So I'm just gonna jump into the chat again real quick so I don't lose y'all, because
I was like, they've been jumping over here. Okay, I've been trying to keep up and scroll. I had to go to YouTube to figure out. I was like, what are they saying in there?
Yeah, they are on it. So let's see. NASA says, "Don't be intentional and don't chase the Joneses." Yep, major key. No, absolutely. Like that's a big problem that I see, and unfortunately, I see it in our community, where they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They do it because they heard you can get the bag, and it's like, all right, cool, but guess what? There's literally going to come a time where that burnout is real, and you're going to go, that bag ain't worth it. Like I would give anything for just a week of quiet, right? Like there's gonna come a time where it's like, if I have to read one more damn book, or read up on another proof of concept, or get into this meeting or this cab meeting or approved, leave me the hell. I got more book. I just bought the mobile application hacking book, and then I had to. Then they were like, "Oh, by the way, we really need to work on MFA." So now I've bought a hacking MFA book. Like
It's a lot.
I have way too many books. Like I need to take like a whole month off and just get paid to
And
read. And I
you,
seriously.
I wish I
So
could get paid to read.
Calvin says, definitely balance de-stress because work can be stressful, especially if it's not your passion. And again, if you're just chasing the bag, you're not going to know that this is what you want to do. So, using you for an example, Dominique, like you said, you tried a bunch of different things, but you're like, but then something with cloud security clicked. Whereas
Exactly.
if you were just in it, like, well, I heard this field is what pays. Now you're beholden to this because now you done attached yourself to this bag and you're not happy getting it. Now you're miserable at your job. So what's the point of
Right.
having the money when you crying in your pillow? So Mary Galloway, we were talking when we were talking about the cloud stuff. She said she's getting them all only because she teaches, so she's got to get more. See again, cheat code,
Same.
cheat code, cheat code, cheat code, cheat code. So Kalila says this is a gem that Dominique just dropped. I started with the I have to learn everything path and learn quickly to start being more intentional with my learning.
And
So
that helps your career so much quicker, right? If you're wasting time trying all these, like, I definitely encourage exploration,
yeah,
but again, intentionally exploring is the goal here.
yeah. And hold on, I'm gonna touch back on that too.
The
Calvin
bag.
says the bag is overrated. So
I don't know
I
about that.
agree. I agree and I disagree. The bag isn't overrated. The concept of chasing the bag is
It's
overrated
overrated.
because
Agree.
if you're again if you're chasing it but not actually acquiring the knowledge to keep the bag, that's overrated.
The bag pay the bills.
The bag
You need that.
pays the damn.
Listen.
The bag pays the bills.
Hmm.
So let's see. Wait, hold on. Actually, Trillionaire says the bag is the reason I'm trying to switch fields. I just had a son. Congratulations on the birth
Congratulations.
of your child. May he be healthy and wise and everything, and you can provide everything for him. But earn the
Absolutely.
skills to get the bag. Don't just chase the bag, otherwise you gonna fumble it. And then Professor Black Ops says, "Get your skills. The bag will chase you." 35 years in the game. Yes,
35 years.
yes, that's the OG.
That's the OG.
Yes.
You're the
Zanette
G.
Zanette says, "I love this. True." And Zanette, thank you. I'm not sure if you watched the show before, but I've been seeing what you've been doing on social media. Big fan. Um, can't wait to have you on one of these days. Yep. So I'll put you on the spot. Let's see. Ty says, "I need the knowledge and skills. I want to be Jedi level Qui-Gon Jinn." Listen, that's a
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars reference. So this is the way. There you go. There's mine. Professor Black Ops says, "I've seen grown people cry under pressure. I'm built for it. I want all the smoke, but that comes with the
That come with
experience.
some stuff.
That comes with the experience." Kalila says, "People looked at me crazy for wanting to do an internship instead of getting a job after passing Security Plus. I will know when I am ready, and when I get to where I am going, I am here to stay. Passion, and pay."
There we
Hey,
go.
if you have, like I said, if you have the ability to do so, hell yeah, sit back
But
and learn.
don't think, caveat, asterisk here, don't think you need to check every single box. We tend to think if they're asking for 10 skills, we need all 10 skills. You probably need a good half. And if you're knowledgeable, maybe you know about, you can speak to two more, cool. But I also want to point out, like, by all means, when you are ready, but I want to make sure, especially with women, to make sure as we're trying to, because that's my goal, is to get more women in the field, retain women in the field once they get in there. By all means, do not hold yourself back thinking that you need to be perfect. Make sure that you're comfortable and you're confident as to what you're speaking, but go for those opportunities regardless if you don't check all those boxes.
Oh
But I
yeah,
agree with what you say here.
absolutely, absolutely. And if you don't know it, there's no problem in saying you don't know it. It's all about how you say it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just
Exactly.
don't go in the interview and go like shrug your shoulders and But
I don't know what you're talking about.
hey, I'm pretty sure with I'm pretty sure with the right amount of research I can learn it or whatever. And one of the things I tell my mentees is if there's a question that you got stumped on during the interview, when you do your follow-up email, because you should be doing a follow-up, thanking them for the opportunity
Major
to have
key. That's what got me a couple jobs.
you know making sure you have the conversation, thanking them for the opportunity to have the conversation. Also put in there, oh yeah, by the way, during our
I looked up.
conversation you asked this question, I looked up this answer and blah blah blah, and after some research, yes, I feel like this is something I could be confident in. Why? It shows that it shows your willingness to learn on the fly, and
Initiative.
sometimes it shows the initiative, and sometimes they're not looking for someone who has it all or knows it all. They're looking for someone who has enough but knows how to get the rest. So that's something you should pay attention to as well. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've literally heard someone say, "Yeah, I know you don't know everything, but I know that if I ask you to go get it, you're gonna come back, in a day or two with the answer."
Right.
And that's just as important as knowing it, because sometimes you might forget shit too on the fly.
Mhm.
So Calvin says courses, books, equipment, labs, etc. equals a bag. IT makes more but needs to spend more. Everyone else can just show up, not in IT. I at least need a console cable, phone, and laptop. And he says, shout out to Ty. No, it is, like I said, especially in some of these more hands-on fields like cloud, where, yeah, you could speak it and know the terminology, but if they tell you to go set up a VPC right now, and you're like,
How do I do that? And they got
what?
some requirements.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. What's that? Then you're screwed. Trillionaire says use free resources. Absolutely, if it's there, and you, but I would say find multiple free resources. Don't just rely on one, because it's free, so get what
And it
you
might be
pay for.
biased, so yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Tom's Gami Gaming says, "Hey, so I am really interested in getting into cybersecurity, but I have a disability, deletion syndrome, and because of that, I have trouble learning new things. I was wondering, where should I start?" Um, so I would say start wherever you're comfortable, and the first thing is I commend you for knowing you have the disability and everything, but don't let that hinder you. If you have to write notes, I mean, you're in the right field, because cybersecurity is all about notes and retention of retaining that information. So if you have to write notes, or OneNote or whatever it is, write little reminders, but that shouldn't be a problem.
Figure out your learning style. That's
Yeah,
pretty key to studying and retaining and figuring out how do you learn. Are you best with videos? Are you best with hearing things like audio? Are you best with so I'm a person that needs to write stuff down, and that helps me retain better than if I just listen to something. I go to one ear out the other for me. So I have to like write it down, and that's how I'm able to retain. So as long as you know how you learn, use that to your advantage, regardless of who you
absolutely.
are.
All right, so like I said, I'm not ignoring y'all. I'm just jumping around because there's a lot, and like I said, we still got some stuff we need to talk about here. But Black Girls Hack says I need to get paid to read, which is,
Listen,
yep.
seriously, I'm at 28 out of 50 books. I have a goal of 50 books for this year. I'm at number 28 right now. I wish I could get paid for that. I would just literally be at home reading all day.
Person Centered Cyber says hi everyone, another friend of the show. And actually, Black Girls Hack says, hey, y'all, had to drop in and see my girl King Damo.
She's
So
listening.
let's see. Yeah, she, like I said, she was on last week, or not last week, the week
The
before.
week before. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So exactly. They also say exactly, learn from that experience. Don't make the same mistakes, or the slow pay scale. So let's
Mm-hmm.
speed through these. Patrick says, know your work. Can't advocate this enough. Do your research and test the waters. All you have to do is ask. No, that's facts. Let's see here. Where are we at? Trillionaire says, teach me how to YouTube, family. Just do it. Just do it. I'm shit.
Just
I'm still trying to figure out this YouTube thing. So like that's just okay. Let's see. Zanette says, great, just what I need. Laugh out
The
loud. Oh,
pressure.
that's serious. Like I said, no pressure. Just let me know
Yeah.
when you're ready, but you on the list. Trillionaire says my end goal is cyber forensics and fraud prevention. Any specific roadmap? Yes. Go check out DFI or Diva.
The answer. Okay.
Yep. Go check out DFI or Diva. That like if I ever had to go back and do forensics, I'm going to check all her resources and go holla at her first. So ain't nothing wrong with that. So all right. Again, thank y'all, chat. Again, continue keep the questions coming. It's a lot of them. I promise I'm gonna try to get to as many as I can. So, Dominique, what is a day in the life of Dominique
Oh
West?
Lord. Uh, well, of course, I have my 9 to 5 because again, these bills got to get paid out here. So I am a technical account manager. I was like, well, I can't even say my job title. A technical account manager for a cloud monitoring company. So that is what pays the bills, and I enjoy the company that I work for. That's why I'm still there. But then alternative to that, I do run security in color. So a lot of the time it's figuring out, doing some research in terms of whether or not I need some research on the latest news for the podcast, or perhaps I'm looking at various feeds, social media, XYZ resources out there for people for my newsletter, in terms of offering any events that are happening throughout the feed, around the world, so to speak. Meetups, no one's necessarily, I think, in person just yet. So I've been doing a lot of virtual meetups for people, conferences for them to go to, get their own cloud resources. And then outside of that, or I should say upcoming, my life is about to get a little bit crazier because I am getting my PhD in cybersecurity.
Oh,
so that starts literally in 7 days. So that's my new day in the life will be probably papers.
I was gonna say the path to Dr. Dominique. Okay,
Right.
okay.
Probably doing papers. And then, of course, I wouldn't be remiss because next week, next Saturday, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after, putting on the CyberJutsu conference for the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu. I volunteer with that organization because we are amazing and we're trying to help so many women in the field. So a lot of my time also go towards that in terms of just putting on meetups. So like you said, I was the Atlanta chapter lead, but now I'm going to be transitioning to the New York City chapter lead. And really what it is just building out a group for women to come together and really just network and figure out how can we be as badass as we can up in cybersecurity. So whether or not, do you need skills? Do you need help learning how to interview? Do you trying to learn, this resource, this skill set? We got it for you. So that's typically what it is. Like if I wake up, I do my regular job, I do my security and color stuff, I do some WSC stuff, and then I'm very good. Again, intentionality. I make sure I hard stop, like unless it's absolutely critical, right? I tend to make sure that I do not work past 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So that way I'm not. I used to work up until 8, 9, and then I try to be in bed by 10, right? So I have an hour to myself. So I'm being very intentional saying 6 o'clock, right? There is but so many hours in a day, but getting used to or saying to myself that, listen, what are my critical top 3, top 5 items that need to be absolutely done today? Let me focus majority of my day on that. And then everything else is a bonus. If I can get it done before my 6 o'clock time frame, cool. Like we are superwoman for the day. But if not, I could leave it for tomorrow. And being okay with leaving it for tomorrow. It used to eat me up at night because I'll just be sitting there in my bed thinking as I'm trying to go to sleep. And I'm like, damn it, Dominique, you didn't get this done. Oh, dang, Dominique, you got this on your to-do list. And I have to say, listen, it's going to be there.
So you getting all of this done with a hard stop of 6 o'clock.
Hard stop at 6 o'clock. Unless stuff like this where like, it's a little bit, it's supposed to be 7:30 or the case may be, like stuff like this is like fine. I have no problem with doing that because I have a give and take, but I am being so intentional with my life and intentional about the day, right? Because there used to be times where I have a couple of things to get done and I'll just be sitting there scrolling on Instagram. Yeah. Or I tend to scroll on Twitter now, right? And that's 30 to 45 minutes that could have been used to knocking out XYZ. So again, intentionality and learning how I work and what my burst of energy is. So like I have most of my energy in the morning. So I know once I wake up and I exercise, let's go ahead and tackle this work, because I know by after lunchtime we gonna start. I need a nap. I gotta start winding down. Right, my energy starts to get declined. So I'm like, all right, I can only probably get 1 or 2 things done after lunchtime. So I need to make sure that I'm just capitalizing on my time and being as efficient as I can, because I do want my me time. I got
See,
some video games to play.
look, I keep telling y'all the cheat code, and I know there's some NDA, but let's see. So, so Tanea said she gets up like around 4 o'clock.
In the morning? Did you sleep?
Hold on, and she was doing. I mean, I not that I want to tell nobody business, but she said it on my show, so you can go back and watch the last episode or previous episode with her. But yeah, Helen, I think she was like working in 2 different states at one point. Yeah, cheat code.
That's a
Let's
super
see.
cheat
So,
code.
so she's doing that. Let's see. You have a hard stop at 6 o'clock, and you make sure you're very strict on your social media usage. I still haven't cracked what Mary's cheat code is yet, but I'm getting there.
She too gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Y'all not
She's
gonna
always
tell me.
up.
Yeah, y'all not gonna tell me, but y'all gonna tell me by not telling me. I'm gonna figure it out.
In the morning? Oh, I'm not 4 o'clock. It's
That's
still dark outside.
that's
No, it's like
yeah. So, but yeah. So let's see here. And you jumped ahead a little bit to it, but yes, you do have a podcast, Security in Color. You talked on that briefly, where you said you do the research and stuff for the different for the information for each episode. I've checked out a couple episodes. You guys need to check it out. I put the link in the caption, so it is literally securityincolor.com. It's a great podcast. And now what is that? Is that weekly, bi-weekly?
It's to be determined.
So it's out when it's out.
Listen, part of being a superwoman is that some things, like I said, some things are getting done and some things are not.
Yeah.
But I'm just making sure, like, whether or not it's the podcast, the newsletter, the website, my social media, my goal is to make sure that I'm constantly educating weekly. Yes. So I do that in various avenues. The podcast happens to be one of them. But right now, just evaluating how do I, again, be more intentional and be more efficient in this educational piece, right? My goal is to bring more people into the field, people of color into cybersecurity, women into cybersecurity, right? There's just so many ways that you can do that. The podcast just happens to be one of them. But yeah, I do have the podcast, the newsletter, and the website. It started off as a side project because I was like, well, to test my knowledge so that I know what I'm talking about, let me see if I can describe ransomware attacks or describe what phishing is or describe IoT to someone. And if they can understand what I'm saying, then maybe I know what I'm saying, so to speak. And that kind of grew from there and kind of came into a community where I was just like, listen, I'm trying to learn, y'all trying to learn, let's learn together, right? Because again, cybersecurity is not just for careers, it's about your everyday life and it's for everybody and your mama. So that's where we are right now.
No, I get it. I mean, that's kind of how my blog started. My blog was literally, okay, if I can speak on it, then if I can write about it, then that means I can speak on it. So that means I know enough to speak on it.
Right.
And also it was also a point of reference for me. So I didn't need to have to keep Googling everywhere. I can go, oh yeah, that's right. I wrote an article about it.
I wrote a blog.
Yeah, I wrote. Oh yeah, how do I do that? Oh, that's right. I wrote that the last time I had this question, and I mean,
Right.
for the longest, that was literally how I did things. Like, okay, how do I need to do it? And then once I did the process, I would literally write it down, and then once I refined it, I'm like, all right, cool. Now I know enough about it to speak on it, and now I put it out. So, yeah, in your recent episode, the last one that I saw or listened to, we talked about, or you talked about the ransomware attacks, and we talked about that a couple times on this episode. But what are your thoughts about it? Because I have some colorful words I would like to use on some of the stuff. But yeah, this recent string of ransomware attacks, a part of me feels like, yeah, it's becoming more and more popular because it's being glorified more and more on, the news or in television, or, people are just seeing things on the internet. But truth be told, I mean, ransomware attacks have been going on for years.
Decades.
You
Literal
literally
decades.
decades. So so yeah, so speak on your thoughts on this latest fad of latest trend
Well,
of
to
ransomware
be
attacks.
fair, right? That's not a far off assessment.
Mm-hmm.
The trend ransomware has been around forever, but it has not been a popular avenue for attackers until they start getting paid,
Yes.
right? So if
True.
hackers know I'm getting paid, of
Yeah.
course there's going to be more ransomware because there's going to be more people who would like to take that avenue to try to get people or try to get these companies. So it's nothing new. I've talked about it, I think, at least 5 times on my podcast. And all this is I think truly exposing how fragile
Yes.
everything is,
Yes.
and the need for, at least in the United States, I can't speak for everywhere else, but at least the United States, for a fundamental federal, state, local legislation around cybersecurity, right? The fact that we're just now getting directives or executive orders around the standardization of modernizing cloud infrastructure for federal services, and the fact that they're just now making or enforcing for their vendors or whoever to have a standard process, that should have been there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then for companies, right, we've been saying, or the mantra, at least, and again, I know that's kind of with just security professionals, which is why we just need to keep talking about it, but our mantra has started to become, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right?
Yeah.
So like at this point, when it comes to ransomware, I do not see it going anywhere soon, simply because attackers know, like, we've been exposed. Companies, everyone has been exposed right now. So they know how fragile we are. And it's just a matter of time. Eventually it will weaken out. Like, once we start to build maybe more security posture, more standardization. And once we get to this point where, and I think it really is going to come when the tides turn, when the financial part of it, and I think that's where we are right now, is because there's no real consequence to the financial aspect. So therefore, why would I stop?
And
Homeboy, not Rebel. Why am I forgetting their name? Who came out, made over millions of dollars last year. If I'm not mistaken, I feel like I saw somewhere that said 6 billion, but I feel like that was an exaggeration. But it was a gank of money that they made in a couple of months.
Yeah. No, it's, for one, I think the only reason why everybody's paying attention to it now is because of the
Yeah, it's a trend.
look, the bag. There's
The
that word
literal
again.
bag.
But yeah, it's exposing these companies, these corporations, are the governments, like, they need to get their shit together, right? Let's take the Colonial Pipeline, right? From my understanding, at first it was like, oh my gosh, they shut down the pipeline. But then I heard, and again, I didn't have, because I was running back and forth. I heard there was, like, it was really more of, was it the billing system that they hit, that they
and
machine
they couldn't figure out how to properly invoice people who their vendors, whoever is getting oil.
So now you done mess with their money, because now they can't charge the vendor
appropriately. Yep.
Appropriately. So rather than say we'll do this and then figure it out later, now we're just gonna shut the whole shit down because we need to make sure we get our money. So now you didn't mess with their money, right? And it caused a panic. I was hearing
Southeast,
Virginia was charging like almost $7 a gallon or whatever. Hell, I just took that trip and it's still high in some places, like, three in the high threes or whatever. But then, so there's that. And they paid the ransom, even though allegedly they got more than half of it back.
I left it.
Yeah. That's why I said allegedly they got it back.
I was like, you got money back from a Bitcoin wallet, from a wallet, from a crypto wallet?
Yeah. Apparently they were able to get the private key of the wallet, but whatever,
None of my business. Hey. I'm out of my business.
Yeah, like, I ain't getting none of that money in there. Right. But then JBS, the meat supplier, it's rumored that they paid $11 million for their ransom. So And then and to me, when it first happened, because you've been there, I'm sure you've been there. The moment something like that hits the news, everybody who knows you're in cybersecurity is like, "Hey, so what do you
So what
think
happened?
about this?" Right? And when it first happened, I said, "Okay." The fact that it hit the news tells me that it's probably been going on for at least a day or two by now, because they try to keep it on the hush hush, right? Okay.
Mhm.
And then when it kept going, the first thing that popped in my head was, well, they probably didn't have proper backups. They
Enough.
probably didn't, like this is literally starting to go through my head,
How
and it's like,
widespread, yeah.
yeah, and again, now we're talking days, and now money's involved, and you still ain't really hit the switch. And I know they came back and said, oh well, it's just we didn't have the right stuff or the right infrastructure. Bullshit. You didn't
Your
back up
response
yourself,
wasn't
right?
there.
So it's like,
Your literal response, like when incidents happen, you should literally have a plan. There's that you should literally have a plan in place
yeah,
for what you should do, who should be contacted, what should be shut off, how long you can have things offline, what do you need to get back online, and like go through that. But as we know, most companies are pretty content where
yeah,
they are cybersecurity wise until they're hit with something like this.
and
And
yeah,
then at that point, it's of course too late.
and
And
sometimes they're hit
you're
multiple times, right?
more than once.
Like
There are
when I went,
instances of local governments who have been hit more than once.
like when I worked for the school system, and this was like 2012, 2013, we were hit with ransomware, and we didn't have proper backups, and we said crap, and now we had to work we had to work weekends and all that
Just to get back up.
just to get back up. So then the following year, when we were hit with ransomware again, you know what happened? We took everything offline and we
Yeah.
used the backup from last Friday.
Yeah.
But
You learned your lesson at
you
least.
learned your lesson. But I don't understand how these companies I mean, I get it, because at the end of the day, it's greed. There's no money in the budget
There's
for
a balance.
yeah,
There, you know, to some degree, cybersecurity has to be balanced with the business. At the end of the day, it's all about the business, right? The
yeah,
business is what keeps everything up. And unfortunately, because many companies aren't cybersecurity oriented, they're not security focused, they are business focused.
hmm
That reflects in when stuff hits the fan. It
yeah,
reflects in how you educate your users about cybersecurity, about the basics of what phishing is, right? Because we already know that what a good 90% of these attacks are coming through some very basic fundamental attacks that you can
yeah.
teach your users, like phishing.
Well, this
Uh,
is yep. From a pen tester's perspective, that's why I tell my people, like, why do I need to sit here and try to figure out your password if I can just ask you and you're going to give it to me?
right.
Like legitimately, right? And that's usually what it boils down to. But you look at some of, like, I have a list here. So there was the Colonial Pipeline, right? So
Yep.
that's the gas pipeline for pretty much the entire East Coast. Then you have Brentag, which was a chemical distribution company that they lost 150 gigs worth of data from the same group that did the Colonial Pipeline.
New pipeline.
The computer Acer, the computer manufacturer, they were hit. JBS Foods, a meat company.
The vendor.
The
Yep.
yep. Okay. Let's see.
Not
The same
so,
the same group that hit Acer hit Quanta, which is may not be a household name. Is one of Apple's major business partners. Blah 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 blah. They targeted and then they didn't. They refused their. They refused a negotiation, so the group then targeted Apple. And I'm purposely not saying the names of the attacking groups. And you see, I'm not calling them hacker groups because people immediately associate hacker with criminal, and
yeah,
that's a whole
it's
other thing.
much more
I
of a
mean,
name. Yeah.
yeah, the NBA was hit. Kia Motors was hit.
Everyone
Uh,
was hit.
yeah, I don't know if it was a ransomware attack, but I just saw EA Sports got hit today, or they just came out with the news.
That happened in May. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody else
So
just came out today that I was reading too. I don't know why it's escaping me, but they also had an attack in May, but they're just not coming out with
yeah.
the information. So.
Hell, our government.
Solar winds. Yep. Somebody
Yeah.
just said, don't forget about solar winds.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like, you have companies. Yeah, some of them are smaller than others or bigger than others, but I mean, this is a thing, right? We know that this is out here. It's not like this is brand new. Ransomware is, like you said, literally been around for decades, and we're still trying to figure out why you don't have the proper stuff in place, right? Proper patching, multi-factor authentication, strong
Outdated
passwords for password
software.
managers,
Yeah.
uh, you know, proper systems in place, freaking proper phishing training, right? Like,
Right.
I shouldn't have to speed through a phishing video every 6 months just for compliance sake. No, we should probably do something that actually has some weight to it, so these people actually get that they need to know this, because again,
And make it relatable. A
yeah,
lot of
like,
the times, like we've all been at companies that have had us do the very antiquated, very boring security trainings. And I think rethinking how we educate about security is what's going to make a bigger and lasting impact than just thinking, okay, well, I just need to get this information out here. I don't care how I'm delivering it, because it's education, and we need to make sure that everyone understands how they play a role in the cybersecurity industry. So by
yes,
just having them go through and take, like you said, whatever quiz, or watching XYZ videos for every 6 months, or honestly, I don't even think it's really once a year, but like you're lucky if you get every 6 months. But having them do that, instead of saying, hey, like I've been at companies where I've had to do a cybersecurity awareness program. And I was like, listen, let's do monthly newsletters where, we're talking about what's happening in the industry, because, as cybersecurity professionals, we had to keep up with that stuff. So we would have like these Friday talks where we would just kind of share, or we have news feeds of like, or RSS feeds of like what's happening in the industry. And we're saying, how can we relate that to everyday life, right? So like, hey, everyone knows about USBs. Let's focus this month on USB awareness, of making sure like, don't stick a USB in a computer all the time. Like this is back when we had like regular data centers and all that kind of good stuff. But like, don't be
don't.
picking up USBs in the parking lot and like put it in your computer. Or hey, if someone offered you, $1 million on an email, let's not click on that link. Or if it's a cute puppy, like let's double check, right?
You
So
are not related to a Nigerian prince,
right, all that
right?
kind of good stuff. So it's just
Like,
like making sure that we talk about it in ways that can relate to the user, and say, yo, MFA, a thing that you might be hating, but, or for example, we always say, oh, passwords have strong passwords, strong passwords. And instead of saying having strong passwords, so to speak, which they should, but let's say, how can we make this easier for you, right? Because for our users, they don't care about all these things that we have to care about as security professionals. They care about getting their job done, and they care about you not hindering it, and they care about convenience, right? Everyone wants convenience.
security
So
versus convenience. The A that's
how
the
do you balance
final
that? So it's
struggle.
like, let's promote password managers, and then
Mhm.
let's make sure that that one password, master password, is really strong, and that they take care of that one password, but that, the password manager would take care of everything else, because we don't have time, that would cut down on our time of having to remind users to change their password every 3 months, or every however, that you need to change that password, when they can manage it much better using perhaps a password management. So it's just, there's a lot of balance and a lot of things that kind of come into play here. But a lot of the times, a lot of the stories that we're hearing with this ransomware, or these attacks that are happening, unfortunately always boil down to the fundamentals of, like you said, all those things, the outdated browsers, the outdated software, the not consistent patching, the not backups, the
Mhm.
not learning my lesson if I was hit once already.
Right.
And it didn't, I still haven't implemented what I said I was going to implement 365 days later, and here we are again in the same situation. So
And let maybe again, maybe, I mean, treat some of these companies almost like children. Like, if it's critical infrastructure, our food,
right,
our energy, power grids, whatever.
you have
Like,
to.
like make it mandatory. Like someone needs to come in and almost do like a QA thing quarterly or something like
Right.
that, right? Um,
I also did see that a lot of these companies who did wind up paying these ransomware were comfortable in doing so because their cyber insurance companies were always going to pay a majority of it, or at least pay them back
yeah.
for most of it. So I'm wondering, and now that there's directives to not pay, like I think the government is starting to hold insurance companies accountable for it. How that's going to play a part in terms of whether or not companies will continue to pay, and then will that be the trigger to die off this trend of ransomware, which we know is going to be replaced by something else. We just don't know what it is
Well,
yet.
we won't have that problem anymore because they can trace they can get the money back.
Okay, sure.
You know, they can get the
Sure.
money back. They can retrieve the money. They can retrieve untraceable Bitcoin. So we have
Yeah.
nothing to worry about anymore. I have total confidence in the fact that we'll get them.
That they're going to be good.
Yeah. So back to podcasting. Because like I said, I first of all, well done. They are very well put together. Um, like I said, I usually pick a segment um of of my show where I'm interviewing guests to have a selfish moment for me. But so this is gonna be that. um what I know you said you talked about it earlier about this is how you kind of one of the avenues you use to get your information out there and then to help people and stuff like that. But podcasting or even what I'm doing here with the live streaming and stuff like that, it's not the easiest thing at times. And with podcasting, there's a lot of stuff with the editing and the audio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like I said, yours seems to be very well put together, and again, and it is definitely one of the top security podcasts, which is a major key there because there are a lot of podcasts out there,
Yeah.
and your podcast is always seems to be up there on the list. So congratulations to that. And I think part of the reason is because it is so informational and insightful and so well put together. So speak to that, speak to how you got to that point, whether it's, the editing or how you got it out there to the masses, just speak to that. And I'm going to grip my notepad.
So I had to first, similar to you had said a little bit earlier when someone I think asked about YouTubing, where it's like you gotta just do it, right? And get over the fact that like it was weird hearing my voice. I was like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know if I like hearing myself, so to speak. So once I got over that, for me, I had to remember like, hey, my intention was to make this quick because I hate long podcasts unless I'm listening to like The Read or something like that. But I hate pretty long podcasts. And when I learned that when it comes to information, for the most part, people have a pretty short attention span. So I wanted to make sure that I'm being as concise, relatable, and informative as much as possible for whatever was happening for the week in terms of the cybersecurity world, translating that pretty technical piece to some more common terminologies that people or analogies that people can understand. So once I figured out like the time format, what I wanted to do, it was just a matter of finding the tools and resources to help me. So I found a platform to host my podcast on because I wasn't interested in hosting myself, right? I too am a pretty lazy consumer, so I wanted to make sure that I know I want to do this, but I want to do it as easy as possible. I think the hardest part has been more so the editing. Being a solo podcaster in terms of doing the research, doing the recording and editing. And as I'm sure you know, with this, the streaming that you're doing, sometimes that can be a lot of work. So that has been, I think, the biggest challenge, and which is I'm trying to figure out how to grow in terms of getting an editor or getting someone. I would really like to focus more on the content and therefore getting someone to help me a little bit more with the editing and promotion. But in the meantime, I just put it out there, right? I started building my social media following by just talking, right? And I would say, hey, do you know about the attacks that just happened, right? And if you don't, are you interested in learning more? And then I also noted by relating it to more everyday analogies or being myself, really, right? A lot of some of my podcasts would have music, for example, when it was Black History Month or whatever month that was happening, to put music in it or to say, hey, you know, a great way to learn about this word is to think about it in this way. And like, how can I, again, I always try to say, if my mom can understand, because my mom don't do this technology thing at all. So if my mom can understand me, then I'm doing a pretty good job. So everyone else more than likely would probably understand me. So really going back to really recap is just putting yourself out there, um, figuring out the tools and resources that you need to be successful. And then again, like we said before, once you put in the work, you know, everything else would pretty much follow for it. So I really enjoy the community I have. I love my skating color community. Like they're amazing. And we talk to each other either through social media. I have a Discord, or we do study groups together and I inform people about studying and like, again, stuff that I wish was available when I first started in the field, is really what propels me to share as much as I do.
Yep. And Black Girls Hack says it's the music, cyber, and so no, absolutely. Like I said, I agree 100%. It's
It's
one way
hard.
to kind of get out there. Like I said, yeah, and the connection with the viewers or the listeners or you know the faithful. Like I said, like I mean, you
It
see it
makes it
here
worth
with
it. Your pack, yeah.
see it here with the pack, man. Like they keep it going and they
Right.
hold me accountable. And if I'm not here on a Thursday and they didn't get the message, you're like, hey, what's going on?
That's why
So
I need some accountability because
yeah.
listen.
So you talked about the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu, and you I guess you're the former Atlanta
Yeah.
chapter lead, and but you're going to be starting up there. And like I said, for those of you who don't know, that is run by Mary Galloway
Mary.
and a few other members. And please forgive me, I'm forgetting the names, but they do have their conference coming up for the CyberJutsuCon. So please, you know, go register, check out the talks there. Join. You could be a member, even though it is the women's cybersecurity group. All members can join. So please go check them out. Register for the event. Become a member. You know, help support them. I wish I could have given a talk, but the time constraints didn't
We
work
got
out.
other opportunities.
Oh yeah, no, there's other one. Oh no, she already put me on. She already put me on the spot.
Okay, good. I know she did.
So
Listen, Mary don't
um,
play.
yeah, no, I got a talk coming up. I have to finish it up and set the date, but it's basically gonna be like hacking on a budget, where we're gonna talk about you know a whole thing of finding different ways and cheat codes to kind of get that experience and get those certifications. You know, as cheap as possible.
Right.
So and apparently Mary done set it up where she partnered with Tanisha over at Black Girls Hack. So apparently it's going to be a joint venture, and I'll be giving that talk. So
That's awesome.
like I said, I wish I could have been doing it for the conference, but please go check them out. Like I said, I will definitely be in attendance virtually because it is a virtual conference. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to put that information in the chat right here. Make sure I'm doing that. Where are we at? Where are we at? Boom. I have buttons. So, all right. So yes, please go check that out. Is what June 19th, I believe. So
Yes,
this
Juneteenth.
yep. So next week, go check next weekend. Go check that out. So there's a virtual conference. Go support it. Go support the speakers. Go support everything that's going on over there. It's a great group, and like I said, you know, just please support that. Now,
It'll be
with that
awesome.
being said, one of the reasons why I'm imploring everybody to go support it is because they are high as well as a lot of other groups. So you have your Tech Sec Chicks, you have Wisp with Rachel Toback, you have Cover Six, you have Cyber Insight. There's so many other groups out there, and they all promote diversity. And talking about accountability, um, in the in the past, I was always more concerned with what other people could do to help bring more diverse people in into cybersecurity and into tech. However, recently I've come to the conclusion that it's not one way. We also have to do our part. And you said it earlier about making sure that it comes from people who look like us. And one of my 2021 mantra was has always been for the year. It can be done. It can be us, but most of all, it has to be us because for that same reason,
Right.
representation matters. So, in your opinion, what do you think we can do? I mean, I know you're doing everything with your newsletter and podcasts and stuff like that, but what do you think we can do to get more diversity, more women, more people of color into cybersecurity?
I think the biggest thing needed at the moment is definitely opportunity. We have plenty of people, women, people of color, interested. Um, I think what's necessary right now is to give them an opportunity to figure out what this cybersecurity industry is, right? Give them a chance to figure out how to navigate their career. I think there's too many blockers and not enough opportunity. There's plenty of resources to learn, but not necessarily enough opportunity for everyone. And I think that's what, as I move up the ladder, I'm now moving into a position of hiring where I can be in position of hiring, right? And that comes with me being intentional about who I'm hiring, right? And making sure that I'm making sure everyone's being reflected or being able to see a version of themselves or be comfortable um, in my place of work. And I want that also in the places I volunteer, in the spaces that I'm in, right? I'm working so hard to open doors for other people to walk through. So at the moment, I would definitely say opportunity. I think there's plenty of people out there who are willing to mentor. There's plenty of people out there who are willing to help. But we need tangible, and when I mean like tangible opportunity, that really comes from jobs, because I think that jobs lead to economic development that many of us, especially people of color, women of color, have not been able to get into or see. And technology and cybersecurity is an avenue to change generational wealth for time to come. So I'm very big on, having or getting people the opportunity, and that's where the skills and stuff of helping out with the resources and stuff come into play. But it's really about how can I get you a job so that way you can pay your bills and you can afford this, whatever it is that you need, because of course that helps take care of the lower foundation of what it just means to be a human being, so that way you can concentrate on more important things and actually move on and be able to turn around and help someone else, right? Because I can't help someone if I'm struggling myself, if I'm
Yeah.
trying to keep above water. So opportunity, um, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me. We have the people, we have the resources, we need the opportunities. Like we need more opportunities, more realistic opportunities.
Yeah. I'm gonna add on to that and say exposure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, for so many years, there were so many of us who were there and maybe were the unicorns in the room or whatever, but we kind of kept our heads down.
Right.
So enough of us didn't know that there were enough of us there. And I think,
Right.
like I said, I think in the last couple of years, especially with 2020 and Twitter, um,
Yes.
it's definitely brought a lot of us together.
Right.
Because prior to jumping back on Twitter, because I had Twitter back in like 2011 or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
I looked around for like 5 minutes and was like, yeah, this shit isn't for me. But when I rejoined Twitter and started to really figure it out, it was like, oh yeah, there's a whole community here. And then also it allows you to kind of put yourself out there a little bit more. So
Mm-hmm.
many of us have always, again, just keeping our head down, trying not to be noticed, just doing our work and whatever. And now there's a legitimate network of people out there, like you, like Mary, like
Right.
Ty, JB, Kalila, Tanisha with Black Girls Hack, DFI or Diva. I'm just, the list goes on. Professor Black Ops, Cheryl Abram, and the professor. There's just so many people out there that I can just keep going, that are willing to just help so many people that I probably wouldn't have been exposed to if it wasn't for, for
Right.
that. So we
Exactly.
need that. We need to be okay with the exposure, and we need to be okay that, because that representation matters. Because if, for me, it's just, it's important to see someone who looks like me, who speaks like me, who comes from my background, that makes me go, okay, so it is possible, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, we
I
definitely
can
got to
do
do
that
that.
too, kind of
Yeah, you
thing.
know what I'm saying? We definitely, and literally having them say like, look, I didn't go to college. I didn't come from an affluent background or whatever. Like, I
Yeah.
came
Right.
from the hood. I came from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Like, I didn't have a computer till whenever, and I couldn't really do
Right.
nothing with it because my mom was going to whoop my ass if I broke it. So, I didn't get a chance to tinker with, whatever.
Right. Take it apart. Right.
But yeah, these are things that are definitely important. So, all right, so last three questions, and then, like I said, we were pretty much caught up in the chat. So, if somebody were to walk up to you right now and say, what three tips would you give me right now to kind of get into tech? What would they be?
Hmm. The three tips I would give someone trying to get in is one, utilize Google. It would be your best friend. There's plenty of resources out there, and majority of the answers that you're about to ask someone is going to be right there for you. So Google is your best friend. Two, network. Uh, it is an understatement about how far you will go in life from networking. It is uh, a key. What am I trying to say? It's a undiscovered, or it's a key tip essentially about networking, or having a network, and to say, hey, not even necessarily just having a network, because this is something I'm trying to learn too, but I would advise other people is like, have a network and build, your network out, whether it's through social media, through LinkedIn, through the community and cybersecurity and tech or XYZ, but also figure out how to connect that network, saying, hey, I need a resource to do XYZ, or I need a job and I know a recruiter, or I need help on this skill. I know this person is really good at that. Like, build your network, because you have no idea when you're looking for something, or if someone's looking for something, who can get back to you. And then
Well,
the third thing I would say is to volunteer and give back, right? As you learn and as you grow in your career, giving back and opening doors for other people, I think, is one of the most rewarding things that you can do. Of course, when you're just getting started, it's hard, but finding other people, that comes with that networking, finding other people who, are trying to learn with you, or are trying to grow just as you are, and saying, hey, this opportunity that came across might not be for me, but it might be for somebody else, right? Who
yes.
also might be more geared for that. So utilize Google, network, and give back. That
So,
little thing gonna kill me.
no, no, definitely. Giving back and networking. I agree with those highly. Like I said, I wasn't big on networking in the beginning of my career, because of the fact that, like, I tried to reach out to a couple people and they
Yeah,
didn't seem to really rock with me, and it was just kind of like, all right, well, screw it, I'm gonna do it on my own. But now,
yeah,
like I said, now doing it, it's like, oh, it's so much easier, and not just because, for references or anything like that, but if I have questions,
right.
right? If I can literally, depending on what it is, I can literally just kind of go through, my Twitter followers, or who I follow, or even my phone now, because a
Yeah.
lot of them I know, we have personal
They
relations.
become friends, right? A lot of the
Right.
people who I've met on social media just randomly have become really good friends of mine now.
Yep, absolutely. And then let's see. Oh, there he goes. So anonymous,
I see everyone
yeah,
talking about anonymous.
anonymous. See, we had an episode and we talked about cloud, and of course, you weren't here, but that's all right.
We'll have another one.
Let's see. Yes. Professor Black Ops says I haven't had an interview in 20 years, and it's because of his network. No, absolutely.
Listen, the goal. Wow.
That do you see it? You see that? You saw
Like,
that? You see that flex, right?
that was a
There
flex.
it
I
goes.
just want to
Yeah,
let you
there it goes.
know
Anonymous just said that's a big flex, Professor.
that was
Kudos.
a major one. You
Yes.
didn't have
And
to
then,
you didn't have to flex on us like that.
so Zanette says I also recently learned that networking isn't about who you know, but it's about what you are
Mhm.
known for in the industry community or those social medias. Yes and no. Because that can be a good thing or a bad thing. Um, but you're absolutely right. Like
Known for the good
how
stuff.
you, yes, for the good stuff, or how it's how you carry yourself professionally. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So let's see here. Black Girls Hack says people are whack sometimes, but don't let it dissuade you from world domination.
Tanisha's on the go take over the world.
See, Mary, see, Mary says, Professor, can I be like you?
Me
Mary,
too.
Mary, hush. You no, because I guarantee you, you walk into a room and they know who you are. So,
Absolutely. Listen, Mary
so,
knows everybody. Okay,
yeah.
don't let her
So
out here try to fool y'all.
yeah,
Listen,
hush.
trying to be like her.
Respectfully, hush. All right. So, Dominique, last two questions. What are your goals for the rest of 2021 and beyond? I mean, other than becoming Dr. Damo.
Listen, survive my first semester of school. But for this year, I guess career wise, I'm working towards. I know we started out this conversation with me doing the most because I continue to do the most because I'm still trying to get certifications out here. So I want to study for my CISM. That's the next certification that I would like to get to. But goal wise, I just want to continue to grow my community within security and color. I would like to personal goals again, reach my 50 book goal of
Okay.
reading 50 books for the year. But I think more so just continue to help build the security community, and that's with WSC, whether or not it's on Twitter. I think this year, for the first half of this year, I've done quite a lot of groundwork with my LinkedIn course that came out, and a bunch of other avenues that I'm doing because I am going to be teaching as well. So I think for the next half of the year, it's going to be a more relaxed demo, hopefully, sans the fact that I need to be doing some research papers, but just enjoying and seeing where the year brings me.
So hold up. You said you have a
Don't
LinkedIn course?
ask. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I just came out with a learning Google Cloud Security fundamentals. It's a LinkedIn course that came out. What month are we in? June. It came out last month. You can go learn more on LinkedIn.com and search. And you can take a whole course where you could get certified in learning GCP fundamentals, cloud security fundamentals. And that way you're on your way to becoming a cloud security guru. That's my goal, is to bring everyone to the cloud security field. Oh, what's
Cheat,
that for?
cheat code. Cheat code. Cheat code.
Listen, world domination.
Yeah, I see it. I see. Okay. See. All right. Now I'm gonna have to go check that one out too. All right.
I'll
So
send you the link for it.
yes, please do. All right. Final question. What is your why?
What is my why? um, if I had to answer what is my why right now, I would definitely say when I always said growing up, when I look back on it at 90 and I'm looking back on my life, I wanted to make sure that I did the best that I could in life. And at the moment, I definitely think that my calling or my right now has been how can I help people be successful in their careers? I've been pretty fortunate. I've just now have finally through therapy say like, listen, I've made it and I've made it to where, my peak pinnacle, but I'm pretty satisfied with just the trajectory of my life and my career. And I'm definitely figuring out how can I get someone else to feel that? How can I get other people to be like, listen, I am successful and I know I can do this and I can tackle any obstacle that comes before me. So my why right now really has been helping out people. And then I know the more that I help out myself, the more I can help out others around me. So like, I want to help my family and my mom, right? You was talking about your wife in bakery. My mom wants to open a bakery, like helping her and giving her the avenues to be able to do that, and just changing the trajectory, I think, of so many lives that normally really traditionally couldn't happen for people like us.
Yes.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be that example that I didn't see growing up, and I want to make sure that my little sister, I have a little sister who's 9, and I always want to make sure it's just like my big sister did that. Oh no, I can do this because I've seen that already. So that's exactly what I want.
No, absolutely. Be the change you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Be the change you want to see. So, all right. Well, like I said, oh, hold on. Mary says her mom's cakes are the bomb diggity.
Because they both live in Vegas, and my mom gives Earl her cakes to Mary.
Nice. See, I know. We're trying to figure out the shipping, the shipping logistics, so my wife
Well,
can start
listen, we
shipping some
gotta
cakes
talk
too.
because this is a journey.
Yeah, we. I'm telling you, whoever once you figure that out, you got the keys right there.
That is a
So,
real.
we're gonna get. Let's see. I mean, like I said, we got through most of the Q&A, but if there's any questions, go right ahead. But Dominique, like I said, I thank you for joining. Thank you for being on the show and sharing your insight and your wisdom. And I'm still trying to get that cheat code, but whatever. If not,
Goodness.
but
Listen, if I had it, I promise I would share. I would tell you. I
but
promise.
best of luck to you, and make sure you come back when you get that PhD
I will.
by your man.
I will. It will say Dr.
So,
Dominique now.
yes, Dr. Dominique. Yes, that's going to be the flex right there, Dr. Dominique. So let's see here. Let's see if we missed any questions here. Let's see.
I
There's a
think we
bunch of
hit them.
conversation. Tell you, y'all popping out here, and
Yes, the cheat code is wine. Down, down, left, right, up, up. I'm dead.
so let's see. Thank you. Oh, so
That's a Mortal Kombat combo.
Zanette said, "Thank you. Such great conversations, both Dominique and Davin. I appreciate it. Like I said, please check out the previous episodes and future episodes." Let's see. Damon Anderson says, Dominique and Davin, are you familiar with the model that girls who code use? Could this be adopted for cyber to help us become more aware of opportunities?
I'm
Um,
aware of it.
I'm familiar with them. I don't know the whole model. My daughter actually participated in one of their programs a couple years back. Um, but I definitely think, and I saw someone else put it there about like almost like an incubator. But I think we do need some type of. But I think we're doing that now with whether it's through your podcast or through this show or the meetup groups. And again, that's one of the good things that 2020 did was allow us to do these things virtually. So now we're getting exposure in places that we probably wouldn't have
Nobody.
gone
Yep.
to normally. Um, and it's allowing us to kind of meet and network with different people. But I definitely think we need to start doing certain things where we create that network. Where, again, for example, I just listed off a bunch of names of organizations, whether it's the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu or WISP or Cover Six, Cyber Insight, TechSec Chicks. Cheryl Abram, what she's doing with Person Center Cyber, Professor Black Ops. I see Dewan Lightfoot's in here. Go check him out, Lab every day, if you need to know anything about networking. You have Keep It Techie. These are all different resources. Black Girls Hack. These are all different resources of people, and we have to be okay with giving that information out, right? Because the other thing is we have to get past this crab in a barrel mentality where it's like if I give someone else props or I give somebody else they flowers or they shine, somehow it's going to diminish mine. No, I don't know
Right.
all the answers. Like if and be the change you want to see. So I can literally sit up here and say, go check out DFI or Diva's website and get those resources from her. And, just tell them I said hello because I don't want anything. And, like you have to be
Right.
okay with that because the end of the game, the end goal is that, I don't know if you saw the episode with me and Professor Blackops, but the end goal is to literally have that moment one of these days. It's not going to happen this year because I'm not going until y'all and some people still get their stuff together with this whole COVID thing. But the end goal is to maybe go to one of these big conferences one day, a bunch of us, a diverse group of people, and
Right.
go act a damn fool within our limits, so we don't get in trouble, of course,
Yes.
and just ball. I want to be able to, and I'm not the show off type, but I want to be able to maybe go on here with a bunch of people who look like me, that's come up like me, you, Mary Galloway, a whole bunch of us all in a room together, just having a grand old time and post it
Right.
on social media. Why? None of us are celebrities. None of us are social media influencers or showing our ass or nothing like that. None of us are doing anything illegal. None of us are rappers. We're all doing it legitimately, and we're damn good at what we do, and we're smart, and we're a diverse group.
That's it. Right.
So it's like that's my goal, but we can't get to that if we withhold the information, especially if we have it. Like, to
It's
me,
about just making sure that, like, or being confident that shining your light on someone else is not diminishing your own. That's all.
yes, yes. Like, to
You can
me,
shine your light someone else.
not know having the information and not sharing it is worse than not knowing it at all. Black Girls Hack says we also need to lift each other up as we rise. Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So let's see where we at. Ty says, okay, I do see the cheat code is wine. Ty says, thanks for the show.
No problem.
Let's see. Kalila says, very proud to see a black woman in this field doing great things, and this has been a great show. So thank you. And yes, the show is great because my guest is great. So again, please make sure y'all show her some love. Give her, follow her on her journey. Actually tell them where to find you. I do have some of your stuff, some of your links in the show notes, but please let the people know how to find you.
On all social media, it's going to be Domyboo, so DOMYBOO. You can also go to www.securityincolor.com to find out all of the more educational resources that I share out. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I have no problem connecting with people, especially if you're trying to build that network that you were talking about. If you need some resources, I'm really good with connecting you with the right people. So Dominique West on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, I'm always on Twitter. I'm a big Twitter head now. So at Domyboo, pretty much everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. And quick show note. So InfoSec Unplugged will be going on a brief hiatus. Just maybe for a few weeks. Like I said, with everything that's kind of been going on, I want to kind of catch up on some things and spend some time with family and do that. Like that's definitely important. I will be on other things. I'll probably be going back to the Try Hack Me streams and some other stuff. Like Dominique said before, with her podcast, trying to get some things in order to get more exposure to the show. But more importantly, I just need to reach out to more guests. So like the show doesn't work without having the right people on the show. So
And catch up on your reading, yes.
yeah. Oh, there it is. Yes, I do have a lot of reading I need to catch up on. But yeah, like I said, in all serious, like I said, I just want to kind of take that moment, reach out to the new guests and everything, and we'll be back stronger. So please, everybody, check out the previous episodes if you haven't. I'll be breaking down the episodes into smaller clips of all the episodes, working on some, repurposing some of that content. So like I said, Andre Bond Senior says, get some noobs on. Listen, InfoSec Unplugged is open to everybody. If you want to come on the show, like I don't have like any strict limitations as to who can be on or what level of experience. Like if you want to come on and speak about your journey coming on, getting into it, absolutely. Let's do it. But if anybody has any questions about wanting to be on the show, or if you have something that you want to promote, like an ad, or you want to sponsor or anything like that, hit me up in the email djax@alphacybersecurity.tech. You can also see in the information, the links in the show notes. Oh, Kalila says, Kalila says I was a noob that was on. So yeah, there you go. Even
Cool.
so, but yes. But Dominique, again, I thank you for joining the show.
Thank you.
I know, I want to give you back some of your personal time. But yeah, like I said, to everybody, please continue to support the show even in the hiatus. Like I said, you'll probably still see the link. So, go ahead, share it. If someone asks a question about some stuff, obviously, I would love to do that. But also, give them Dominique's link too. Like let us all get that exposure and let them hear from different people and different voices and learn from other folk than just the people who are the normal folks they talk about all the time. Let them hear a different voice from a different perspective. That's all I ask. And like I said, I'll see y'all soon. Again, I want everybody to come back. If you are going to conferences or attend, whether you're virtual or in person, I want y'all to come back with some of y'all conference stories since I won't be really attending any in person this year. I do plan on giving some talks. I don't know if they'll be at any of the major cons because I missed most of the call for papers. But just stay tuned. So let's see. Oh, hold on. Anonymous says, I wish I had questions, but I was late. But you seem like a very interesting person, Dominique, and I look forward to seeing more on your platform.
We could do a quick Q&A on I'm not sure if you're on social media, but we could do a Q&A anytime.
There you go. She's available for your questions.
Before 6 o'clock.
Yes, before 6 o'clock, of course. Oh, wait, and here you go. He did have one. So, question for Dominique. I've heard looking cool is all that matters in InfoSec. And if you can't look cool, if you're not building people up, what are some things we can do to look cool?
I can't tell you because I do not do the looking cool thing. I do the helping and minding my business. I drink my water and mind my business.
Drink your water and mind your business.
But I think similar, and this is you could do, I guess, back with the replay, but we talked about keeping up with the Joneses and how that doesn't really work out for you very well. So as long as you're doing the work and I think being true to you and making sure you're not burning any bridges, I think you'd be straight.
Here we go. You want to look cool? Go check out my merch store.
Oh, there we go.
Boom. There you go. Yep. There it is. Go to TeePublic and check out my merch store. You can get some stuff there. There'll be some new designs now that I am going to make some time to do that. I have them there. I just haven't fixed them for shirts yet. But yeah. So drink your water, mind your business, check out the merch store. Let's see. Please follow her on all platforms. Go check out Security in Color. Please support that. Let's see here. You can follow her on all platforms at Domi Boo. You make sure you subscribe to her podcast, but also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Twitch as well. You can follow me on Twitter at djax_alpha. And last but not least, if you like what I'm doing and you want to support it, you could buy me a coffee. Yes. I definitely need some of those because I haven't really been sleeping well with all this traveling I've been doing back and forth. I'm going to catch up on some sleep now. But everything's going to go, like I said, everything goes back to supporting the show. And I'm going to be actually putting up more content on the Buy Me Coffee blog stuff, just like more personal things. That's going to be for, the supporters and the members. Also, be on the lookout. The Discord server should be up and running. I'm actually hiring my son to finish it up since he seems to be like a Discord connoisseur at 11.
Nice.
So, I got to keep the money in the family.
Absolutely.
But until then, drink your water, mind your business, and y'all stay safe.
And listen, the key.
Yes.
Thank you.
Listen. All right, y'all take it easy.